Oh, hello, I'm back with another video, and this is going to be the story of channelers and healers. This topic was prompted by the question as to how psychics and mediums become psychics and mediums, and I think that a lot of people are generally under the impression that it is something that these people incarnate on Earth with, and I would have to agree that's true. I mean, it's kind of a hard discussion because, of course, we are all intuitive, we all have psychic abilities, but when I'm having this conversation, I'm more so talking about people whose life purpose surrounds this type of psychic ability, and typically the difference for me is that it is something that they are working with the collective on, right? Like, if someone is inhabiting a lot of intuition, channeling ability, psychic ability, first of all, they can definitely do a lot of different creative pursuits, but unless they're like really working with other people to help better themselves in some way, shape, or form, it's like super, super broad. I don't necessarily consider them like under this bucket or under this blanket, but of course, everybody does have this ability. I'm going to speak from my own experience here and say that from not just the channeling that I do myself, but also the channeled information that I get and I've gotten from a lot of other super talented people, psychics, mediums, readers, whatever, what have you, there's a certain trend or a certain theme which I do feel like is wrapped up with people who are incarnated here at this point in place in time, at least to heal others. I mean, if we think about it, this is so singular, right? This moment. So other channelers may have come in at different, in different decades, different earths and different dimensions, who knows? And it may have been a different situation. So I'm just gonna say this is just for the now. But anyway, the thread that it has been consistent with all these people is that I have personally lived a lot of past lives, and I do definitely feel like this is true. I mean, I've literally had someone tell me that I am ancient, which is, I mean, I guess it's kind of cool, So what I'm starting to kind of like put together from those experiences, or that experience, as well as, my general channeling experience, although I haven't gone like super, super deep into the topic, is that there's a lot of experience required, right? Because like if you have a responsibility on behalf of the collective, particularly if it is very sensitive and particularly if it's very delicate, there's obviously a lot of experience or information that you kind of like need to get started. If you're someone who is really struggling with their own healing journey, it's not that you can't heal others, because I think that healers actually do struggle with their own healing journey, probably in particular like earlier on in their life. Also, sorry if I'm squinting, I can't see anything, I took my glasses off. But if you're on that type of like an evolutionary path where like you really need to learn lessons for yourself, there's just not going to be a lot of time and space to help heal others. And when I say this, we heal others all the time, a lot of times unintentionally. I think that we have this like grand view of what healing is, or at least from what I have experienced talking to people that are just like, you like heal people, like they think it's like some sort of extrasensory superpower, and like, yes it is, but it's not like fantasy. It is literally like, if you have an open and honest conversation with someone, if you like share something about your life, if you help somebody overcome something, you are healing them. You know what I mean? Like, healing is happening all the time, and I find that it's really directly correlated with proactive transmission of old negative and stagnant energy. So it's happening all the time. It's not this big bad, thing that no one has access to or no one is experiencing. You're probably experiencing it multiple times a week, if not like multiple times a day, and you could be the one healing yourself. Other people, places, and things can help you heal, right? Like, energy is not just humans, it's also animals, it's also nature and plants and whatnot. So my suspicion with this theme of past lives is that I do believe that a lot of people who have channeling ability have just had a lot of experience. They've had a lot of situations where they've either been called upon to have responsibility, they've gone through their own self-healing journey. And I actually have a theory that for you to read and channel energy, you have to be really intimately connected with that type of energy, meaning that you in some way, shape, or form have lived that or experienced that in a past life. Like, I honestly feel like everything I read, I have intimate knowledge of in a way that transcends beyond just reading it. Like, I do feel like when I feel this information, it's because in some way, shape, or form, I felt it before. And, you know, I don't even want to say that that is true for anyone and everyone, because, like, I don't think it is. Like, the vast amount of information that channelers, like, gather and receive, and some of it, like, being real time, basically, like, maybe that seems somewhat impossible. So it's just how I feel. It could, again, just be a theory, but yeah. What I've discovered about myself over a period of time is that there have been a lot of concepts and themes in my life surrounding healing. Some, in a little bit of a sense, is tragedy, is trauma. Other is connection and growth and joy and happiness. But healing is a huge part of my life. And I do find that people who are working through these concepts and themes will oftentimes need to experiment with them, transmute them, play with them, you know, whatever. So when you're working through a particular concept or theme, it's not unlikely, in my opinion, that you are going to have a job or a career field or interests or hobbies which align to it, right? Because you're being attracted to things which are helping you work through it, helping you gain knowledge, helping you receive support in similar areas, right? Because you know, when you're trying to get through something, someone who not only has empathy, but is able to, like, really resonate with those experiences, like, that is really invaluable, in my opinion. Something that I think about on occasion is the intention and the incarnation in terms of channeling and healing. And, like, it just would be impossible to me that, like, you just wouldn't know. Like, I feel like it's such a big deal, and it's maybe like, you know, a gift, an ability, or whatnot. You would just have to know, right? Like, I feel like it's, even though it was a surprise to me, considering my intuition opened up when I was, like, in my late 20s, like, I don't think it's, like, subconsciously a surprise to me. But so that also kind of, like, validates that there's clearly some things going behind the scenes which pre-qualify you. It's a prerequisite for getting into this situation. But maybe it's not necessarily true. Maybe, like, if you're going down a certain path and, like, you are going to mess up your life unless you have, like, a groundbreaking intuitive moment, which, like, seems unlikely because you could also have, like, an external moment, right, to kind of, like, cut that energy in half, cut that pathway in half if you really are doing something, like, horribly against alignment with you. But yeah, maybe if you, like, need an intuitive breakthrough, like, being a psychic, channeling is, like, an unintended consequence from that. I don't know. Could be, it's an interesting thought. I think that there is something driving people who are looking to heal other people. I think maybe in a sadder way, they struggle to help heal themselves, or they struggle to help heal others, or have struggled to help heal others. In a lot of cases, I channel past lives where I've been, like, persecuted for channeling. So I also think that it's likely that channelers probably have had other lives channeling, being psychics and whatnot. And, you know, maybe in some ways being at this point of place in time where, like, granted, not everybody is a believer, but for the most part, people are relatively open. At least, you know, you're not going to get killed, which you have before, like, if you do have this ability. So, like, I consider that reasonably a win. But there could be this kind of, like, reckoning aspect to it as well. I think that if you were born a channeler in a different decade, it was likely a very big challenge, a very big struggle to you, a detriment to you. It could have cost you your life. So I think it's definitely not just a blessing in terms of ability, but a larger blessing in terms of the level of acceptance in the now, you know? I do feel like there's a lot of strength required to do this type of work it really can be, unless you like just like take so much responsibility for transmuting this energy, like it can really become a humongous burden. It can be a lot of baggage. It can be really stressful, really detrimental. So, you know, it's really important that you kind of like work through it. And it's also an interesting piece of information, because if you are struggling with self-responsibility, if you're struggling with your own strength, your ability to transmute, it could be unintentionally blocking you from strengthening your intuition, because intuition isn't just intuition. It's not even just the ability to process and dissect this information and hold space for this information. It's also how you apply it, what you do with it, how you connect it to other things, and how you like really discern what needs to stay with you and what doesn't. And I think that a lot of people, and this isn't to like convince someone not to do this, because like I want everybody to be intuitive, but I think that a lot of people get caught up with the fact that their intuition isn't being strengthened, but they're not necessarily willing to take on the responsibility of processing this information, you know? I kind of talked a little bit about this when I was speaking about how to improve your mediumship abilities and like the responsibility for the collective here on Earth, your own self, as well as people on the other side. Like it's a lot. It's a commitment. It's like a life-altering thing, which is also another great point to bring up, that with this type of job or with this type of work, there's no real knowing or understanding where it ends and begins, right? Like you don't really shut off your intuition in a way that you could clock out of a job. Like, yeah, maybe you can, but like it's very different, right? Like it's definitely not exactly the same. And it becomes so intertwined and meshed with your own life that unless you have like really strong boundaries, it can be really, really damaging and detrimental. I think that with that said, as I've kind of gone through my journey, things become so much easier without really indirectly addressing them, because I just think that the more experience that you have and the higher your vibration, it just sort of naturally happens. Like the negative experiences tend to like melt away, particularly after you've learned the lesson. So it definitely gets easier and easier, unless you continue to pile on the challenges. But like I still think it gets easier and easier. There's no doubt in my mind that healing is a part of everybody's life. Do I think that healing is everybody's like life purpose? Absolutely not. If I were to guess, I would say that healing in general is like wrapped up with about 20% of people's life purposes here on Earth. And in terms of intuition in a psychic channeling sense, maybe like 1%, you know? So it's of course unusual, but that is still 1 out of 100 people. So, I mean, it's kind of more common than you think. For me, feeling like I'm an alien here on Earth and like no one else is like me, despite how many tarot readers I see on TikTok or how many psychic readings I've gotten, yeah, I guess I'm really not so alone. Or if you're reading this, you're watching this, I'm sure that, oh my god, I said reading this. I've been writing so many blog posts. If you're watching this, I'm sure you're probably saying, I'm that way too. Unless you're really lost, in which case, good for you for sticking to this video for this long. You should probably go elsewhere after this if you're not interested. Yeah, just like a lot of interesting thoughts about healing from the perspective of yourself being the healer or other people being healers, more than just doing it for your own sake. Not that people do it for their own sake only, but just it's more of a calling, you know? Who knows? There's time for everybody. I didn't think that this was my calling until quite late in life, so if it's something that you're interested in, you can always integrate it into your calling. I think that some people are called to do it in a more overt way, and some people are called to it in less of an overt way, but neither is more or less important, you know? So you may be taking advantage of the fact that you are healing other people, because you probably are, especially if you're interested in this topic. Trying to think if there's anything else I want to say before we wrap up. So my guides just said job to do, which is very subliminal, but I think what they're trying to say is that if you feel you have a job to do, if you feel like you have a calling to do, it's really important to step up and do it. And I know that's easier said than done, but it's kind of like, if you have the trust and faith, even if you fake the trust and faith just for like a very short period of time, good things will happen to you. You know, like I do strongly feel that way. Like when you're so out of alignment, things are just not going to go well for you. The universe is going to be against you. You're just not, you're not a clear channel. You're not like walking a clear channel, path, line, whatever you want to say. Guides just say to be free. So maybe someone's watching this who feels like they're not free and feels like they're being stifled, maybe by another life purpose, or maybe with the burden to heal others, but healing others, I think, only feels like a burden when you're unable to heal yourself, honestly. So, always work on that, no matter what situation you're in. I think that's it for me. Good luck. Have a great rest of your day or night. Bye.